Welcome back to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. We're talking about emergency communications and public safety, and we were talking specifically about, well, specific programs. I'd like to throw it over to you, Nicholas. Give us an example of a specific program that Verizon is working on to bolster this whole ecosystem.
Yeah, thanks, Luke. You've probably seen over the last few months our Verizon Frontline campaign, right? So this is our umbrella term for everything that we're doing to support public safety, from always on priority and preemption services. So first responders have first access to the network and can remove consumers from the network, to our local network command solutions to increase prioritization, our mission critical push to talk services that we launched last year. So everything falls into Verizon Frontline, and that's definitely our biggest program. But the one I want to touch on really quickly is our Verizon response team. This is run by a peer of mine here at Verizon, in place since 2013. And this has always been a team that has run to crisis. That's part of our mantra. I said in the opening that they've engaged with public safety to respond to either planned events or unplanned events 160 times just last year. And what they've done is they've expanded that team. They've added more deployable units. They've added more capabilities on community relief with our Big Red trailer. Sometimes you just need to show up and hand out water, provide air conditioned tents, to provide a command and control center that we can share with public safety. But what they've also done over the course of the last year is they've all gotten 107 certified. So now they're all certified drone pilots. And what that's allowed them to do is actually bring their own drones, both for commercial network coverage, as well as just situational awareness, working hand in hand with public safety to be able to share situational awareness from a bird's eye view has been incredibly powerful and helpful to be able to support relief efforts. Everything from the terrible situation down in Miami to the crash of the Air Force pilot last year, to many, many more situations. And that team, again, works side by side first responders, and that's something we're incredibly proud of, the legacy of commitment there and where we're going next.
Wow, that's interesting. I hadn't heard about the drone program. That's fascinating. Once again, another emerging technology that's being brought in to bolster public safety. Wade, how about at the IPOS program? Can you give us a specific example of something that you all are working on, a project, a program that you'd like to highlight for the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I'm going to sneak two in here.
Okay.
First, I'll talk about is really ramping up our support to the people that have their fingers on the keyboard that are trying to send a message. So front end, helping them with practicing, developing guidance, kind of incorporating that piece into the communication centers that are needing to communicate with the public. And then providing them, of course, on the back end when they need that support with what's going wrong, why is my message not going out? And then I'd be remiss to not mention the work that I don't see as much of, but is big time work going on in the background by the wireless providers, by the private sector infrastructures that actually communicate with people. IPOS, we don't get any message to any person without that partnership with the private sector. And right at the end of 2019, there was a little bit of a change in the participation rules for the wireless industry that expanded the number of characters and also laid out what's called enhanced geotargeting, which is the ability for the phone to make the decision on whether it should display the alert to the person or not based on their location, if they're inside or outside the polygon. That's been a huge effort in the background by the wireless providers. They have been not only rolling that out, that capability into new phones as the phones turn over in the population, but also continually tweaking their networks on the back end to make it happen that the alerts get to all the phones that happen to be in a polygon and then let those phones decide. There's a lot of continued effort to go there, but that links really just the continued enhancement of that capability of how those alerts get to you in your cell phone and what you can do with that alert information once it gets there is really continuing to improve really the effectiveness of getting people out of the way when there's an emergency incident going on.
No question. You really can't effectively implement these programs unless the technology is there. So hats off to all the technology companies to again build this out as quickly as it's needed to be built out, and to harden it so that it's available in these really tricky situations that we often find ourselves in these days. Marcus, how about at Panasonic? Can you give us an example of a specific program you'd like to highlight?
Absolutely. So I'd like to refocus on ATAC, our partnership with the Android Tactical Assault Kit, which all of our products, but specifically this, certainly rely on what Nick had advised on. It's not only reliable, but it's that priority traffic for the first responders so that they get first bite at the apple in these type of situations. But as I mentioned, all the great benefits of ATAC before, one of the other things I'd like to focus on is when you're able to track the assets, especially in a multi-agency response, you can avoid blue on blue situations when you have that information transfer between those agencies. And that is hugely important in the first responder community, whether it be a search and rescue operation or a ever evolving real-time active threat. So,
And if I may, blue on blue, for those that might not know what that term means.
yeah, absolutely. So that is the good guys running into situations where they are in a threat situation from another good guy. And we don't ever want to be in those situations if we can avoid it. So whether that be the military or first responder, law enforcement specifically, we need to know where all the good guys are so that we can use command and control to the best of our ability and efficiently deploy. One of the other projects in a broad spectrum that Panasonic has is the LEAC, the Law Enforcement Advisory Council. So this affects everything we do and all of the projects that we work on. We have a very diverse populace of subject matter experts in the field, from small, medium, and large law enforcement agencies, some sworn, some CIOs, and some IT professionals that advise us on two major topics. One is what technology already exists in the field and how can we make it better, more efficient, more effective, and most importantly, safer for the end user. And then the other side of that is what are the need voids in the marketplace and how can we use technology to address those? So we are always looking for the opportunity to listen to the end user that we're trying to provide that service to and make things better and ultimately safer, because at the end of the day, that's the most important thing.
Sure, and we really appreciate all the extended effort there. Let's roll over to priorities. Billy, I'm going to start with you. I know you've got a laundry list of priorities. We'd like to hear about the top 2 or 3 that you're focusing your attention on this year.
Sure. Thank you. Really, it's 3 critical areas of focus that we have that we're trying to build in partnership with communicators across the nation, across all of public safety, across all of the critical infrastructure, across all of the national security and emergency preparedness community to ensure that we're working together harmoniously. So first and most important is obviously nationwide interoperability. It really does take a constellation of network service providers and a constellation of partners working together to seamlessly move information to ensure that those mission essential operations are able to get right to the public when they need help most. The second priority really is continued focus by our SafeCom team and working in partnership across the nation with statewide interoperability coordinators and the National Council of Statewide Interoperability Coordinators to improve integrated and effective collaborative communications planning. It really is communicators working together during those day-to-day kinds of incidents, those day-to-day kinds of concerns where we're trading business cards in blue sky, not trying to wait till the hurricane happens to trade business cards, to understand requirements that each has in their separate organization, their separate agency or jurisdiction or discipline, to make an effective communications plan to ensure that information can seamlessly, interoperably occur. And so continuing to drive towards the improvement and the addition of other communicators into the team to enhance the ability of collaborative communications planning across the nation is critical for us to really achieve nationwide interoperability. And third and finally is really the advancement of the use of priority across the nation. It really is having priority access in a mobile environment, in a wired environment, to ensure that information seamlessly and efficiently and expeditiously can get to those operators when they need it most, because as we talked about a little bit more earlier, that every minute counts, every second counts when we're trying to save lives.
Right. Sort of as you said on that second one, it's like the old saying, dig the well before you're thirsty, right? Type of situation. So very important. Nice, crisp set of priorities there. Thank you, Billy. Mornay, what do you all have in the hopper as far as priorities? What's the demand signal that you're responding to out there?
Yeah, thanks, Luke. Especially around building scalable solutions in the 5G domain between commercial cellular and in private networks. That I think is definitely very important on the wireless side. And then on the wired side, building a robust backbone around, you've got more networks now, IoT, you got more spectrum being available, and realizing that it's not just the connectivity you're delivering, but also power. Every edge device there needs power and connectivity. So how can we combine those two and deliver it together? Simply, easier, and scalable. And then I think lastly, which is a lot of times overseen here, is concealment solutions. We're putting more and more edge devices out there in the public domain. How will we conceal this so it's more applicable for the citizens out there in their general day-to-day life and make it not so obtrusive in their face kind of thing.
All right, interesting and very important, and no question about that. Lori, priorities for 911 this year?
Well, there are a couple of things that we're looking at that I think will be really helpful. Well, one of the things that has happened over the last few years is that there's been an emphasis mostly on the state and local jurisdictions that operate 911 centers. There are literally hundreds that are operated by federal agencies who haven't been part of the conversation. Departments like the Department of Defense, the Coast Guard, Park Service. And so we're working really hard with our federal partners to make sure that they become part of the conversation, that they establish the relationships that they need to in order to be interconnected within the jurisdictions that they reside. The second thing that we are looking at the behest of the community is what I would call sort of establishing a little bit more uniform technical specifications for the interconnection of 911 and whatever broadband network 911 uses. And the idea behind that is that, if 911 gets a photograph of a suspect, how will it get out to the patrol car? And we want to make sure that however that happens, it's understood in a way that is consistent so that information can be shared not only to the field, but back again. So I think those two will be really exciting.
Right. And I think about video, pictures, and text too, right? Now, all three of those really important to get integrated into the 911 ecosystem. Marcus, top priority for Panasonic this year. What are you focusing on?
Well, we're focusing on that mobility aspect and the stronger, faster, and more capable, but also more mobile hardware options. And in addition to that, with our existing Toughbook line, we're wanting to make the solutions a single piece of hardware that can address multiple issues, and that we're unifying the hardware, software, and solution sets to the best of our ability. We're shooting for that single pane of glass solution set for the end user when and where applicable. In any case, whether it be a single tool that solves all issues or multiple tools in the toolbox, we want a one-stop shop opportunity for our clients for ease of use and service. And with the extremely low failure rate of the Panasonic products, it's very rare, but when it is needed, the quickest turnaround possible, so that there is rarely, if ever, a time that they don't have that product in their hands.
Got to have that capability all the time, real time. Wade, how about at IPOS? What's the top couple of priorities for you this year?
Yeah, one is we're continuing to work. We've seen a gap where what we feel we need to do is ingrain kind of the thought of emergency communications to the public. So sending of alerts early and effectively and in a timely fashion to the public within the emergency communications community and in those programs, into the operations center and into the operations plans of those public safety agencies across the plethora of where they sit, especially at the local level. So, you know, at the local level, those true first responders are your local public safety officers. They're the people on the ground. We want, and typically the sending of an alert, the thought of actually sending something to the public to let them know what's going on, or encourage them to take protective actions, is in many cases at the local level a secondary duty, right? It's assigned to somebody else who has a curriculum and a certification in some other piece of the emergency communications spectrum, but not necessarily a lot of training or background in how can I effectively get some information to people to have them take some protective actions to both protect lives and really assist the response efforts and those recovery and what happens in recovery after that emergency happens. That's a big priority for us. Haven't exactly cracked the nut on how to get that all done, but we are leaning in to create some tools. I mentioned before guidance and training. We're also on the cusp of bringing in some folks to assist us with developing some automated message writing tools that can assist those guys, those people, when they're under the gun, so to speak, and the clock is ticking and they need to get a message to the public to let them know what's coming.
Right, and under a tremendous amount of pressure, stress is high. Interesting concept too about the recovery part of this. So important, right? You are really getting a handle on getting that message out. Hey, the tornado's coming, the flood's coming, etc. But then, you know, the response piece of that so important as well. Once the tornado has arrived. Nicholas, how about at Verizon? Top priority for you all over there this year?
Yeah, I'm going to say three very quickly. One is the continued reliability of the network. That is fundamental to everything else we do. The second is we're running fast after 5G, right? Making sure 5G can become a reality and not just you know, the promise of the future, and making it real this year. And then the third, really, I'm going to piggyback on Mr. Brown and Ms. Flaherty on interoperability. It's absolutely key and critical to everything that we do. And Verizon is committed to making sure our products and services are interoperable. And it's not good enough just to say that because now we're on cell phones and LTE, that I can call you and you can call me across networks and we can text. There needs to be more than that for first responders. And that's priority services across networks. And I think WPS and CISA have done a great job of leading the effort there. We're proud to make sure that our WPS interoperates with our peer networks that also provide WPS. We've engaged that, we've started that process. We need to expand that to all priority services. And then we go beyond that into our mission critical push-to-talk. Radio services on a cell phone that have priority and preemption built in and have the ability to do media and video are fantastic, but they work much better when they work well across networks to other mission critical push-to-talk solutions or land mobile radio. And so when we launched mission critical push-to-talk last year, we proved that our system can work across networks and to LMR and back. Very, very robust solutions for first responders that make sure that they work when they need it, that we share business cards before the event. I love that example. And that's something that we've done. And we're reaching out to all of our carrier peers to make sure that we do that before the worst case scenario happens. And so that's our vision of interoperability, that the LTE networks are good today for interoperability. They can be even better when we come together to support first responders.
And that interoperability is so important. You mentioned WPS, wireless priority service, allowing you to gain access, cut through the congestion in the event of an emergency if you're authorized. So it's a very important program that the good folks over there at CISA run. All right, we're going to take another break and we'll be back in just a moment. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network.